What is a calculator challenge? A calculator challenge is a calculator quiz with a marketing budget. So we have here, I have assembled some questions over time. Turn your phones and PCs off, because the question, the challenge here is not how quickly you can Google and find answers, but how much you know. It is about, well, basically keep score yourself. So just with a piece of paper, jot down your answers. I didn't have time to prepare a form, so just jot down your answers. We're going to go through the 19 questions and then the 19 answers. And I have no idea how much time Eric, how much time do I have for this?
30 minutes.
All right, so warn me when I'm talking too much, because it'll certainly happen. The answer domain, if you will, in many cases, if the question's about what model this, what model that, all HP handheld and battery operated models, all the things we think of as HP calculators, it does include the Top Cats, 97, 91, 92, but it does not include the Series 80, the 46, the 81, or the 9XXX models, some of which are actually in the back. Feel free to ask questions, because clarity is in the reader's mind, not mine. And more than likely, some of the answers here are not correct or incomplete, because it's just a matter of how much you can look up and how many things you can look at. So the point here of that last line is, I'd love to learn that I'm wrong, but don't interrupt the quiz process to prove I am, because there'd be too many witnesses. So, jumping right in. Question number 1. How many different types of cases were sold for Pioneer models, and what are they?
What models were the Pioneers?
That's the real motivator.
Pioneers, 20S, 21S, 22S, 27S, 32S, 32S2, 14B, 10B, 42S.
42S. Look like it.
Yeah.
Types.
By the way, some of these are gimmies and some of them are not gimmies. Okay, I think that's enough time. Number 2. This is interesting, I didn't know this. What model HP calculator was only in the market for 14 months?
Oh, it was too good, they had to discontinue it.
Jake, is the Excel file with the dates on the 2.39
No.
coming in a future
It's not
release?
on- It's not on any archive yet. It
Coming.
was like,
You want one of the date for a
I
model?
didn't
I've
do
got
the
the
list.
calendar, it's got that stuff in it.
Well, Jake made a super useful. It's one of those files that until you know you have it, you don't know. It just has the dates of every model availability,
Well, it's not on the calendar.
which is probably where a lot of it came from. Okay, moving swiftly ahead. Is it me? Is there some? Oh, you got to aim it. This is another interesting one. Which calculator model had one model number printed on the device, but a different model number printed on the package?
And by the way, this kind of thing is very confusing for writers, because, you know, they want to be right.
Absolutely.
And I asked Sam Kim, what defines the model number of the calculator? And his answer was, that which is on the calculator itself.
So packaging people need to be spec. Number 4. Which non-graphing HP calculator model has 6 different colored keys? This does not mean the bezel or the printing above it, the actual key color itself. The graphing I excluded because there's actually several of those and it's not as interesting. It's a much better question if you exclude those, but I have those models there too. If I go too fast, you need more time to think, just scream.
But not including the lettering on the keys? You're not including
No, the key color.
color?
Yeah, not the label color on the key color itself. And by the way, that is about the 15th different way I've worded it to try and come up with the clearest way to be about it. This is another interesting one. On the 41, which commands are HPIL specific, but they're not in the IL module? And if you know what the commands do, but not their names, that's also a passing grade. And I don't know what Toggle's view is there from. That's detritus from a prior presentation that I raped to make this one. Number 6. How many HP calculator models could also be used as a numeric keypad on a PC connected by USB? And what are their model numbers? So there could be partial credit in some cases. We may have to get down to that. If there's 5 people for a tie and somebody knows the model numbers and someone else doesn't. So it's all in the gray.
I think you're bouncing off the wall in terms of the.
Oh, okay, so aim it at the receiver? Okay.
Well, or.
Yeah, I see the little receiver now. This is another interesting one. Which HP branded, not a third party, HP branded product for 41 leaves a non-normalized number in the user data area, and it's even actually documented in the manual that it does it. Which ultimately means it would have been a lot of work to do it right, to fix it. They didn't have enough space or code or something. And that's another note that doesn't apply. Which Pioneer model were sold in the most configurations? And by configurations, I'm talking about things like screen design or color. There's a lot of possibilities for what it is. It does not include package variations because that becomes a nightmare to try and track. Number 9. How long after the 48GX was discontinued was the 49G discontinued?
We want that in minutes?
Okay, I have a calculator. I have a calculator if you need to convert it. Other than the 12C family, which obviously dominates this, which business model calculator was in production the longest?
Ooh.
12C, obviously,
Yes.
40-something
Right.
years, yeah. But if you take that one out, and some of the answers to these are surprising, and even for people who geek over this stuff, I was very surprised by some of these. The other side of it, which scientific model calculator was in production the longest? And this is another one that's going to shock most people, which is a hint. Number 12, which Pioneer machines were only sold in a single configuration? There were no variations of screen design or colors or things of that nature. And you can tell how much time I spend in eBay, right? Another strange one. Which HP calculator returns a result negative 0.00 for certain operations?
That's tricky because,
It shouldn't be.
well, it shouldn't be, but
And when you see what-
there's a lot of calculator models and a lot of operations.
When you see the operation that does it, you're just going to go, why? That makes no sense at all. I'm sure algorithmically it does, but
Is +0 equal to -0? If you test
it depends on who you're talking with, right? Mathematicians would say no, but most of the rest of us would just say, why are you even asking that question, right? This is an interesting one. What is the meaning of these numbers in the sequence show? And I don't mean sequence in a mathematical sequence sense. It's not n+1. But what is the meaning of those? And it's probably maybe a bold hint to say, no matter how long you think about it, it's probably, if you don't kind of get it within a few seconds, you're not going to, further analysis will not help the problem, as a professor of mine used to say.
Is that in the online integer sequences database?
It is not, but I thought about putting it in, to be honest, but only a small percentage of the viewership would appreciate it, right? Oops. What is the meaning of the number 93 1/3 relative to the released HP calculator model numbers? And again, this is a very hard one to word.
93 1/3.
Hmm.
16. Which base model, HP10, HP17, HP18, whatever, has been used for the largest number of calculator models, and list them?
That one's
Depends on
what you.
depends on your obsession level.
But also one of the most interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the most and least interesting, which is another hint. Another odd one. On the HP70, which understandably a lot of people don't have, but everyone's curious about and has read about, what is the initial value of the K constant register? It has a dedicated K register. Why they didn't use C, it's not entirely clear to me. Gene, any idea why do they use K for that?
It was Russian.
Because C is the speed of light.
It's because they're German? Is it a German thing? I don't know. Another odd one. Name a calculator model with only 4 general purpose registers. And so dedicated ones don't count. So like if you have NVI and those sorts of things, no. Instats and so forth. I didn't think such a thing existed since the earliest ones had well more than this. Oh, I guess that was a hint too. wasn't it? Oops. Oops. And the last one, number 19. Name, by that I mean provide the model number, for all battery-operated HP calculator models with a built-in printer. So like the 41 with the hpcalc printer not included.
Does that include models that were never released?
No. No. Because I think on my slide 1 it says production models, so stuff that was not ever,
So
just
90
lab stuff doesn't.
95C doesn't count.
95C.
Print out 200.
Does anyone have questions on any of those before we jump into the answers?
What
So-
are the answers?
Good question.
That's my question.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, let's go into the answers. There were 3 pioneer types. The initial thin vinyl type with a strong ridge down the side, the brown leather-like, and later in life, things like the 17B2, the 32S2, the 10B. When I think when production shifted to Indonesia, if I'm not mistaken, they went with a black. It's actually really very dark brown, but it's almost like the original 41. It's like a brownish black. But if you put them, like if they're not near each other, they all look the same. But if you put them next to each other, you can definitely tell. Number 2, the HP70 was only in the market for 14 months. Because the 80 was a better machine, they brought out the 70 that was cheaper, and then the 22 came out shortly after that. And which is why it was so unpopular. It was really just a grand scheme to make them valuable on eBay 25, 30 years later, which worked. Go ahead, Jake.
Something related to that question about why did it have a K? I'm gonna guess if it had a C, people might have mistaken it for
Clear?
clear. But
Yeah. When the words came out of my, why don't they use C? Clear, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, the proper one should say CLX, but we don't. Number 3, the Quick Calc, the little candy bar calculator with the magnet that goes on the register. There's a set of them up here. On the machine itself, it says it's an HPO1, which is heresy because everyone knows what the HPO1 is, the watch. But the package says it's 10, which is very, very bizarre. Like, oops. Actually, even weirder, there are at least 4 or 5 different packages that came out for it at different times, and they never corrected it.
Yeah, that's caused me to ask the question to
Yeah.
Sam.
The answer for the machine with 6 keys is the 55. Most people immediately say, the 34, the 67, because the ones they know with. 55, actually, if you look at one closely in the museum, there's a photo and stuff, you can see it's just odd. Some of the top keys are a different color than the others. And all of the 49G and, to make that frozen hamster butt really shine, they went with 6 other keys on the 49 and And it was so good, they kept it on the others. On the 41, the save as, which is save an ASCII file. And presumably the reason for this is because all the code for doing the save of the ASCII was part, together with the CX extended functions.
What module is out A in?
That's in the HP.
Out A is in the extended IO module, I believe.
That's IL, isn't it?
Sorry?
That's an IL command, it's not an IL module. That's what I was thinking, was extended IL. The development module.
There you
Those
go.
should
So
have
that-
some IL commands that aren't in the IL.
Technically, you're right, yeah, that's not in the IL module, it's not in a device. But
Yeah, I said HPL development.
okay, so you proved me wrong, so you're supposed to wait until after.
We added that.
I think it's in the module.
Numeric keypad. Most people know the CalcPad 100 and 200. Very few people know what a WKP-290 is. Look on eBay for about $7. You too can have one. It's an astounding piece of crap that was not made by HP. That is actually why they put their logo on it is really the best question of all, which was one of the early questions I said, it's too obscure, too obscure.
What is your opinion about this product model?
I don't want to say because, it might influence people. The matrix program in the Advantage module is the function, and it says it right in the manual if you look at it, something to the effect of unusual and unexpected numbers may be left. And it doesn't cause a problem per se, because you can continue operations, but they can look wacky as anyone who's dealt with the NNNs.
Unless you divide one, that can,
Well, they're okay. They're valid numbers. They're just the display routine is not ready to deal with them.
certain NNNs, if you divide by them.
Well, but I think the ones that it produces are okay, but some other ones are not. Yeah.
Okay.
Gene, what's up?
You might also think the HB65 used to leave really junky stuff in the DSC register, register 9.
I didn't know that.
Depending on it, it would tell you it was corrupted. That's I think.
Was it in the manual?
It said you don't be careful.
Oh, okay.
Blah, blah. So it's not maybe not an NNN as such, but that may be something that.
It is.
Yeah.
Also the IL development realm.
The 17B2 came out initially with the flat LCD in brown, then the brown with the recessed LCD, and the black with the recessed LCD. The 32S also came in 3 and had the original flat, the 50th anniversary, actually I think the 50th came first, the 50th anniversary edition, and then the non-50th stamped version, and then the one with the recessed or stepped LCD. So that one's sort of a tie for those two. So both answers qualify. They were both discontinued at the same time, which is not surprising, but it's also not intuitive.
So 0 minutes is correct.
When you said that, I said, well, 0, that's easy to multiply. Here's an astounding one. The 10B was in production for 14 years. There were 2 versions of it, but for it's an underwhelming machine by all measures, except the one that replaced it, the 10B2, is even more underwhelming.
So the 80 was not as long.
Sorry?
HB 80 was around for quite a while, wasn't it?
Yes, because even after the 22 came out, they kept the 80 out for a while.
But it's not longer than that.
No. 14 years? No way. 14 years isn't enough, except for the 12C, which is an EPICS kind of thing.
It was the student business calculator. That's why it lasted 14 years.
Yeah.
Nominally the replacement for the 12C, but no, it's algebraic.
But it was $30 compared to $100, so students would buy the 10B.
And here's the answer for the scientific model. Who'd have thought that the scientific model longest in production is the 35S?
Oh,
And it still is today, though you can't buy one on the HP website.
Thankfully, it's not the 33S.
Yeah, well, but that one has fans. Well, I was gonna say one's right behind you, but Joe, he's in the back. Joe likes the 33S.
So the 35S is still actually being made in production?
Tim, or Cyril, no, January, I think in the January online meeting, Cyril said, yep, they're still being produced.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
It's a damn good machine if you're doing complex variables.
It's a very polarized, like a lot of them, it's a very polarizing machine. There are people that love, most people that love it, it's the first RPM machine that they buy, you know, younger people and all that, but it doesn't have, what is it, it doesn't have polar conversion, which is enough for most people to throw it across the room and swear.
It lacks certain things, complex conjugate is one of them.
Yeah, yeah. The stuff it does, it seems to do fairly well. It's not, to me, the big bug in it is it has a checksum for the program, and the calculation of the checksum is buggy. Which, and, you know, people rail about it, and other people say, well, the 41 didn't have a checksum at all, so, you know, what did you do with that? But the fact that you put in something to ensure the integrity has a bug.
But for AC circuit problems, it's wonderful.
Which is what it was designed for school, yeah. Yeah. The 21S and the 22S were the only ones that were just kind of vanilla. They were just the same, and the 21S was the stats machine. The 22S is sort of an entry-level business kind of
Scientific.
I'm sorry, scientific. Thank you, algebraic. That's the operation that generates -0. Joe, who's a math person that could begin to explain why that generates that? Like a bug, I suppose. Yeah, but and I've tried, like -55,554 raised to the -5 doesn't return it. So it's something odd, something I believe we call that an unanticipated result.
Now, when you get that -0, the moment you do anything with that, it goes away, right?
Yeah, times 1 or anything. Yeah.
Oh, I see, numbers.
Those numbers are models. Who got that right? Just show of hands. All right. I'm in the right room, man. I am in the right place.
Never so, yeah.
I can just tell this is not going to be a winning answer. If you take the average of the fact that there's so few Top Cats, well, models that are in the 90s should have been a hint, but that may not be it. That may be a yucky one. The 10, the original one was 10, but sometimes called the 10A. The 10C, the 10B, and yellow and green. The 10B2, silver, which is the only calculator Gene has ever thrown away, HP calculator. The Quick Calc on the box. The 10B2 and the 10B2 Plus. Which, on my way down here, I stopped at Virginia Tech to go into the bookstore because they have a great old school college bookstore. The only HP models on sale in that bookstore were the 10B2 Plus. There were TI calculators in 7 colors. But there was only one. I asked the girl, is the HP Prime available? And she says, isn't that a number? Yes.
Bob, there's one you're missing. The 10S.
Oh, you're right.
That's the rebadged.
Oh, there's even more. You're right.
What about the 48?
And actually, there's a 10S and a 10S Plus.
Yeah.
48 didn't have as many.
Which I just got a few months ago.
48, 48S,
SX.
48, no, wait, 48.
SX.
SX, 48S, 48G, GS, G plus, G2.
6.
Nope, still more. Number 17. K is 12. And I looked briefly in the manual, and it does explain to use the K12, but it doesn't really say why it's 12, but clearly it's because of months.
Okay.
18. The 14B is the lowly 4 registers. It's short of build quality, it's really an underwhelming machine. Although the collector's edition trade for well over $100, not the collector's, the anniversary edition, sell for well over $100. And number 19. 10, 19C, 91, 92, 97S, and the Print Calc 100, which most people don't even know about. Okay, since everyone kept their own score, who thinks they got the most right? Someone yell a number out just so that someone else can say, no, I got the higher.
1.
3, 2.
Okay, so wait. All right. We'll do it like a classroom. We'll go around the room and I'll point and you'll say how many you got right. Richard?
They get partial
I
credit
didn't
because
take-
they got most of these.
You didn't want to be wrong.
No, I didn't write it down.
Richard?
1.
Roger?
1/6 if you get partial credit, you're forgetting one of the last.
Eric? 4?
3 unambiguously, if you don't count partial credit.
About 3.
Gene?
3.
Jim?
You cheated.
No? Here? No?
Minus 0.
Dave? 1? What did I lay up? Dave?
1.
Nope. This David?
Just
Sorry.
it, 2/3.
2/3 right.
2/3 of 1.
Oh, okay. Dan?
Maybe 1.
Okay. I've lost track. Go ahead.
2.
Okay?
1.
Okay. Joe? No? Steve?
At most 1.
Joe? Wait a minute. So like 4, I think, 5 or something is the high number?
I didn't even write it down because I thought I'd be nowhere near the top.
Oh, it was a better quiz than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so did anyone beat 4? I have a prize for you, and I guarantee you don't have what the prize is. And the prize is a Print Calc 100.
I believe
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
was just gonna say, for what it's worth, -0 is legit on 16C. That's complimentary.
Ah, I didn't ask you, what was your score?
And I got 3.
Okay, wow, okay, so it was a better quiz than I thought. Was it too hard?
Yeah.
Curve it, curve it.
So, okay, Eric gets an A, suddenly everyone feels better. Okay, thanks a lot, that's all I have to